the way I play video games, well, I say to myself, any game I play instantly becomes a gay video game just because of the way I play it or like the way I interact with the game. Like, I make it gay.
Welcome to Pixel Therapy, the video game podcast where we look at the games we play through the lens of the player, where what you play is just as important as how you play it, and where emotional intelligence is a critical stat. Usually this is the bit where I tell you that we bring on a guest every other week, but this week is a bit of a shakeup. We've got an interview for you a week ahead of schedule because next Tuesday is Election Day here in the US. And a lot of focus, ours included, is going to be on that garbage fire. So we're making a little space and taking the week off. But we will be back with another interview for you on November 10th and every other week thereafter.
This is fine.
Yep. In the meantime, though, I am, as always, your co-host, Jamie. My pronouns are she, her.
And I'm your co-host, Spencer. Pronouns they, them.
And this is Pixel Therapy. So pull up an armchair, feel free to lie down on the couch, and let's talk about our feelings. Spencer, what game are we talking about today?
We, Jamie, are talking about Spiritfarer.
Yes, we are. What's Spiritfarer?
Game of the summer. The game of the summer of sadness 2020.
So Spiritfarer, if you haven't heard of this, it's a little indie game. Came out on August 18th. It's on pretty much all platforms, PC and the consoles. Developed by Thunder Lotus Games, who I didn't realize when I was playing this, they also made Sundered and Jotun. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Have you heard of either?
What do you know? Have you played them? Either of them?
I got Jotun.
Okay.
A long time ago, and it's same hand-drawn animation style. Mm-hmm. I want to say it's like Norse gods or Norse mythology. Mm-hmm. I played like a few hours of it and ultimately dropped it because I just didn't jive with the mechanics of the game.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. We'll get more into that in a second here. But yeah, anyway, that's Thunder Lotus Games. They made Spiritfarer. And this game, I wanted to read the description of the game that they've been using because I think it's just interesting and spot on. It's described as a cozy management game about dying. That's right, dying. Build a boat to explore the world, then befriend and care for spirits before finally releasing them to the afterlife. Farm, mine, fish, harvest, cook, and craft your way across mystical seas.
I just felt like when I first read that, I was immediately like, just because I felt like the perfect kind of combination of like Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing kind of vibes with, like, I definitely feel like something I look for out of games is having my heart broken or cracked open.
Yeah.
And so this idea of, it's like a farming management sim slice of life thing, plus you're processing really deep feelings. Like I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I need. So I just, when initially the hype before the game, I was riveted.
Yeah, same. No, absolutely. There were two things that put this game like on my radar, and like I bought it the day it came out, and I had seen a trailer for it in advance and was like, I'm getting that game the second it comes out, which is not something that happens very often with indie games, right? Like usually you find out about indie games more through like, oh, this person was talking about this on a podcast, but I saw this game. And first of all, it's got this gorgeous hand-drawn art style that's almost like Disney-esque, like really bright colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the characters are these anthropomorphized animals, which is a number one way to get me. Like talking animals, I'm in. And then a cozy management game about dying. And there was just something about that I was like, yes, that's what I want. That's what I need. I want to snuggle up with a blanket and be cozy and sad. So in the game you play as this young girl named Stella, who's existing in the afterlife. You get the sense that, you are in the afterlife, so she's already had a
Stella a girl?
Yeah.
Okay, because I kind of I'm like, Stella could be non-binary. I guess they use...
That's true.
I think they do sometimes she, her. But
Yes.
honestly, like, I don't know, she gives me vibes. She's got this total like BIPOC, like chill, like cottagecore, very like butch, like ready to like dig a hole or mine some ore, but also just like super chill, can cook. Like she's everything. Anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing with her, right? She's very much a like a cipher for us. Like she's this bright little character who bounces around the screen. She doesn't talk though. She doesn't speak, but she does smile. She does react to the other characters around her, and she always she just emanates like can do.
Yeah.
Like a can do attitude, like I'm here, I'm showing up, I'm in the moment, and I can do whatever gets thrown at me.
And empathy. Like
yeah.
the way that she has, I think the dialogue reactions are something that I'm not used to seeing from a silent protagonist. Like she will clutch, like if someone says something hard, like you really feel the empathy coming from this character. Like you see in her face and her stature, like she's making space to hold something more painful, or she's overjoyed and sharing in someone's success, or she's listening intently when someone is being vulnerable. Like you get a lot of emotion out of her that almost like you would be feeling reading this text that I don't really often see from RPGs like that.
Yeah, there's also characters later in the game who are bombastic or who prattle on for too long, and she'll get visibly bored or just like annoyed with them, like kind of blowing at her hair or like just hanging down, like listening to them like, okay, are you done now? So yeah, she is really responsive for a silent protagonist. And we've talked about how we don't really resonate with the silent protagonists in first player games, but you do get to see Stella on the screen and you get to see her react, and that makes her feel more like a fully fleshed character, even though she doesn't actually speak. So Stella is the ferry master. Her job, your job in the game, is to manage the ferry that goes around and picks spirits up around the world. It's this giant boat, and you're traveling around the ocean, going to these islands and collecting spirits in order to take care of them. The spirits, like I said, are these anthropomorphized animal characters. They all have different challenges that they're kind of working through as they process their life and prepare to move on. And you're helping them through that. You're cooking them meals. You're
building them a little house.
Building them a house, decorating their house, making them comfortable, and then doing missions for them. They'll want to go to a specific island to see a specific thing or do a specific thing or talk to a specific person, and you're helping them with all of that. And eventually, at some point, they will tell you that they are ready to move on, and you can bring them to this thing called the Everdoor, which is this really just gorgeously animated golden arch that sits in a lake that's surrounded by cherry blossom trees, and the water is like glowing red, and it's in this perpetual like sunset golden hour kind of mode. And so you'll bring them there and you'll release them to the Everdoor, and their spirit will ascend into the next plane of existence.
I think it's interesting too that you have to make the choice to bring them there. Like the spirit will come to you when they're ready and say, I think it's time for me to go to the Everdoor. Like, will you please take me there? And you have to become ready to say goodbye to this character that you've loved and cared for. And you could conceivably make the choice to not take them there for some time, but it really puts this weight on you of teaching you about being open to change and remembering that everything ends. I don't know. It's kind of rare for a game, I feel.
Yeah. And that's like at the heart of this game. There are some really deep themes, messages, lessons about how we process death, how we experience death, how we let go of people, how we ignore people even while they're still with us, how the like callous mundanity of life pushes us to move on from the loss of people. And so like this game, it's challenging for me to talk about this game because it is both one of the most like deeply emotional and impactful experiences that I've ever had with the game, and also there were so many times that I fucking hated it.
Mm.
That this game was like dumb and annoying. And that sucks to have to like hold those two things because I love this game and also I think it's not a good game.
Yeah, can you say more about the dumb and annoying parts?
Yeah, so when I was reading the description, it's like farm, mine, fish, harvest, cook, craft. Yeah, there's a fucking lot of that, and it's not really that fun to do.
Yeah.
And like I love Stardew Valley. Like you mentioned Stardew Valley at the top. I played a lot of Animal Crossing. Like those games are my jam. Like I'm here for some resource management. This game has too many resources.
Yeah.
There's too many resources to manage. Like there's at least 30 to 50 different resources you have to keep track of. Mm-hmm. You can build all of these different types of crafting structures on your boat to build all of these different things. The recipe book is like 100 recipes long that you could learn to cook. And the map is huge. All of these islands to explore. The boat doesn't move that fast. And there's no like just one logbook that you can go look and keep track of everything that you might need to gather everything that you might like. I couldn't make progress in this game until I started keeping track on my phone. Like I had to create a note on my phone and start jotting down what resources I needed and where to find them so that I could keep track. Because it's like, I need 20 silver ingots for 5 different projects that I'm trying to build. And I can't go to one place in the game and see all of the projects that might need silver ingots. No, I have to go over to the carpenter station to see what things I can build. I have to go to the kitchen to see what things I can cook. It's nothing is like housed in one place to keep track of it. And so it just makes it confusing and daunting, especially in the earlier game, which I know, Spencer, you specifically, you got kind of stuck on this game. Well, we both did, but I kind of moved on from it. But yeah, do you want to say more about that?
Yeah, it's just what you're saying definitely resonates. I think for me, I love the farming aspect and creating things, but I also am driven by my relationships with the characters. So what happened to me was that I was finding spirits and inviting them onto my boat because I was lonely on my boat and I wanted to have people like community on the boat so that people would have people to talk to while we're traveling. I'm very into the characters. And what I found was that like when you invited spirits onto your boat, they have needs and they would become unhappy if, for example, you hadn't built their house yet or you hadn't created a meal they like in a while. Characters also they don't want to eat the same thing twice. So I had to make sure to keep a rotation of different dishes. And what I found is that things like farming and cooking kind of fell to the wayside because I was so busy crisscrossing the map trying to find different resources I needed or figure out how to progress certain storylines that it's almost like, I don't know if the game was trying to fit too much into it's like you can either focus on the character stories or you can focus on, building up your resources, building up the amenities you have on the boat. But I also found that like the ore that I needed to build someone's house could only be obtained after I learned a certain skill, but I wasn't progressed enough in another character's story to unlock that skill. So I was sort of stuck in this loop of just trying to slowly traverse the map, trying to piece by piece find the resources I need. Meanwhile, my spirits are getting unhappier and unhappier. So I think I was expecting a little bit more freedom to sort of one day at a time, similar to like the Animal Crossings in Stardew Valley, like focus on my farm a little bit, focus on my resources, focus on my relationships. But it felt a little bit like the game was expecting me to do it all at once. And so it was a little bit more stressful than the story would initially have you believe it to be. It wasn't very cozy. It gets kind of frantic.
See, though, I think, and this is another reason I'm torn on this game, because like for me, the issue is not that they have that tension in the game. I think that tension is actually important to the like what I took away from the game.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm giving the game too much credit, but I think that it intentionally wants you to be engaging with that tension of getting caught up in the mundane shit and forgetting about the spirits. I think it actually wants you to have to try to balance both of those things because that is emblematic of real life. And I
Wow.
found myself really like when I did finally start clicking with all of the resource management that they wanted us to do, and I was keeping track of it on my phone and I was doing it, I found that I was forgetting to feed the spirits.
Yeah.
I was forgetting to interact with them. I was letting their missions languish. I was forgetting to, and we didn't mention it, but you can hug the spirits in this game, which is one of the most interesting mechanics I have ever seen in a video game. You can hug them, and for nearly all of the spirits, that increases their mood. They all have these different hug animations that are specific to their character and how that character responds to a hug that are just, I don't know, this game does a lot with a little. Like the way a character hugs you tells you so much about that character and who they are.
And sometimes they don't want to hug.
Yeah, they don't always want to hug, right? Like there's a timer when you hug someone. They're not going to let you just hug them all the time. So you can't be like cloying. You can't just be like trying to hug them all the time to make them feel better. Like the hugs are limited. But yeah, when I was getting really sucked into the management sim portion of the game, I was forgetting to take care of them and like striking that balance. I do think the game is intentionally trying to say like, this is what real life is like. There's people here with you that you're actively ignoring because you're so caught up in your own busyness. And sometimes that busyness is fun, and sometimes you're just doing it because you have to do it, but it still is a distraction from the actual people in your life. But you also can't just hang on the people in your life because that's not going to get anyone anywhere.
Yeah.
So I do think they want you to engage with that tension, but to my mind, it's just too much. Like the game is 30 to 50 hours long. And I really think if they had pared some of that back, made it more like a 15 to 20 hour game, I think they could have told a really compelling story that I think more people would be engaged to participate in. I'm just worried that they leaned so hard into that and made the game so long and bloated with that stuff that a lot of people are going to give up on it.
Yeah. It gets a little tedious, and I found that I wasn't sure what I needed to do to move forward. And then, like you said, the boat doesn't move very fast. So I would be crisscrossing the map trying to figure out what I needed to move forward, and then getting frustrated because I'd wasted all of my daylight getting to this island that didn't actually have what I needed. And so it's like, but that being said, those parts were frustrating, but I did find myself forgiving them because I was so moved by the stories.
You mentioned earlier that the spirits will tell you that they're ready to leave. Did you ever try to hang on to one?
I didn't because of guilt. If anything, I'd maybe hang on for a day just because I'd be like, "Oh no, already? Like it's time. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't ready." But I guess I was taking it very literally, and I was imagining, in my own life, like if I loved someone, I wouldn't necessarily like holding them back is selfish. It's for me. It's to make myself feel better. It's to tell myself that things aren't changing, that things can be this way forever, and we all know that's impossible. So it was painful, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't do it. So I did do it, but it was always a bit of that pang each time.
Yeah. There were two characters near the end that I hung on to because I was getting close to the end of the game and I didn't want to go down to just like one spirit that I was still working on the boat, and both of the characters were ready, and they just retreat into themselves. Like they kind of stopped coming out of their houses and interacting. So it's like you have to take them. It doesn't work if you don't.
Wow.
Yeah. It's really moving.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those Everdoor scenes, when you do take someone to the Everdoor, you'll arrive at the Everdoor and they'll give you a dialogue prompt and you can go talk to them and they'll basically say, "Hey, we're here. Are you ready to take me?" And you say yes, and you go get in your little rowboat and you paddle them out towards the Everdoor. And this like haunting, melancholy, like bells music plays. And as you paddle across the lake, they'll give you this. You have this really extended moment with the character where they're reflecting kind of on their life as a whole and them processing these final moments before their death. And like, if the game was only that, it would still be stupid powerful. I think there were so many characters, like even characters that I didn't like or that I liked less, like found redemption at the Everdoor. You know, there's this guy who's like a philanderer who's like cheating on his wife. And I just kind of like was like, you're just kind of an asshole. You're just kind of like a flatterer. And as we rode to the Everdoor, he just spent the whole time talking about just like all these little details about his wife, about how he fell in love with her and why he really cared for her. But he just had always been called to live his life to the fullest because he fought, it's implied in World War II, and had watched people die and just couldn't not pursue the things that he enjoyed. There's these brothers who are like these gangster guys, and one of them is personified by this giant bull. And the other brother is this little hummingbird. And the bull doesn't move. He doesn't even walk. The hummingbird carries him around. He doesn't talk.
Whoa.
And the hummingbird does all the talking for both of them. He's the one who's constantly telling you on the ship, like, my brother's hungry, you need to feed him. And you realize as you're bringing them to the Everdoor, the whole time, the little hummingbird brother he's just been a jerk. Like, he's been a jerk the whole time on the boat. And you're rowing them out there and you realize as he's talking that the bull is dead or in a coma. Like, he's gone. He's not there. And the little hummingbird brother is like struggling to process that.
Wow.
And that's why he's been a jerk the whole time. So it's just like,
it's these little animals. And so you're not necessarily expecting the writing to come through and just pierce right at the core of your humanity. But yeah, there's this character on the boat named Summer. She's a snake and she's a vegetarian, or she's vegan, and she's like an organic farmer, and she's a lesbian, and she was married. And so I immediately just really bonded with her. And it's funny because I just spent a week on an organic farm, like learning how to work the land and stuff. And something that you said earlier about time management, about how you get so caught up in the mundanity of your everyday tasks that you sort of can forget the people and having to balance that. Like, I definitely felt this, like while I was on the farm, I was getting really into the rhythm of farm life, of working and sleeping and being really connected to the land. But I did realize, like, you know, I went a week without really talking to any of my friends or being connected to the world outside of the farm. And so, I don't know, it just, when you said that, it really made me think about, like, especially when you're working in something that's so all-encompassing, that takes so much effort and presence, like, it can be a very much of a split of sort of supporting those two worlds. But anyway, lots of funny parallels. But with Summer's story, she is someone who is pursued by this dragon. And you encounter the dragon various times throughout your journey, and when you encounter this dragon, it's diseased, and you work to sort of chip away at these rock, almost like tumors that are on the dragon. And when you do that, it's sort of intimidating, scary exterior melts away, and it sort of looks very relieved at you, and then it quietly swims away. And every time that this happens, Summer becomes very upset. She retreats into her house and she comments on how she keeps hoping that she won't run into the dragon again, but knows that she will. And each time, even though it hurts her to have to encounter the dragon, she knows that she needs to help it in some way. And so eventually, it gets to the point where Summer comes to you and says, I can't outrun the dragon anymore. I wanted more time with you, but I think it's time for me to go. I know that my wife, I would hope that she doesn't think poorly of me for giving up or for stopping, but I just know that my time is over, and it's time for me to go. And I guess there's a lot of ways that you could interpret what the dragon is. It could be an illness that returns. It could be I very much interpret it as someone who lives with major depression and PTSD and a generalized anxiety disorder. I don't really talk about it much because it freaks people out, but I think of my anxiety as a beast, as a dragon that lives inside me. And I think early in my mental health journey, I thought that getting help meant that one day I would not have to deal with anxiety anymore, that it would be cured. But what I've learned instead is that this beast is always there watching me. And some days it's stronger, and some days it can't be contained. And other days we're able to coexist. But even things like what I eat, how I wake up, what's in my surrounding, that can stir up the beast, that can make it see me, that can, I've really been struggling to sleep these past few months. And I find that it feels like this presence, like if I move too suddenly and it sees me, then I'm not able to go back to sleep. Like it's there, it's with me. And so I've often been afraid that there will come a day that I'm too tired to fight it anymore, or that I'm too weak. And people like me, sometimes they commit suicide. And for a long time, I thought that would never be my reality. But there have been times where that's a conversation that I've had to have with myself of what might that be like. And I am not all that I'm trying to say is that I've had to learn that my relationship to my mental illness is never going to just fix itself. There may never be a day where the anxiety is gone. Instead, I have to live with it and communicate with it. And if I ever were to not be able to go on anymore, that's not necessarily a failure on my part. I will fight however hard I can. I'm not saying that I want to die. But mental illness can be really hard. It's hard in ways that I can't even always articulate. And so it is scary too to be confronted with that. So in the case of Spiritfarer, watching this story unfold, it just sort of landed how doesn't matter how old you get, doesn't matter how much knowledge you have, we are all fighting internal battles, and that's just something that is a truth. And the battle may not ever get easier, you just get stronger, or you just learn how to endure. And it was interesting because I was also watching The Haunting of Bly Manor on Netflix, which is another story that kind of has a lot of interesting parallels to our journeys with mental illness or with marginalized identities. And something that happens, I guess, if you want to avoid any major spoilers for The Haunting of Bly Manor, feel free to skip ahead to the interview. But essentially, the end game sort of centers around this main character who, in order to sort of save people she loves from this ghost who has become violent and consumed by its rage, she invites the spirit into herself in order to stop it from wreaking havoc out in the world. And as a result, in the sort of epilogue of the story, she starts a life with her partner, who is also a woman. Love that. But she mentions to her partner, like, you know, this spirit inside me, I feel like I'm walking in the jungle and there's a beast stalking me and it's waiting for me to put my guard down, and one day it's gonna be too strong and it's gonna take me. And that immediately just hit me because that's something that I've thought just in my darkest, weakest moments, like, it's gonna take me. And this woman, you know, she lives like 10 years of happiness with her partner, knowing, like, seeing the ghost, having moments where she can't control the anxiety. She has anxiety attacks. She has trouble sleeping. She has moments where she doesn't know who she is or where she is, which are all things that, like, I can certainly relate to. And it gets to the point where she can't fight it anymore, and in order to stop the ghost from coming out and causing more violence, she takes her own life in order to protect the life of her partner, and the other people that she loves. And so, you know, that was a quite literal, like, another example of this thing. And I don't know if I necessarily have a neat like lesson that I'm taking from this. I think, again, it's just something for me to meditate on in terms of, we all only have a certain amount of time on this world.
Yeah.
You really do, in some ways, have to take things one day at a time. Some days will be good, some days will be bad. But it's never just, like, it sounds cheesy to say, like, it's not your fault. Like, I think there's just forces operating and we just have to do the best we can, I guess.
Yeah, and like what I think one of the ultimate messages of, I don't know, there's so many messages that I can pull from Spiritfarer, but I think one of the messages that's in there is that, like, there is a time to move on, and like that's okay. Like, none of the characters are seen as failing for reaching like, that's what that's the goal that you're working towards, is to be ready to ascend to the next plane. And something in Summer's story that resonated with me personally. I mean, I've said, like, I also deal with anxiety. Our anxiety is different. You and I have talked about that a lot. But one thing that Summer said that really resonated with me was that she'd been trying to learn to love it, like, to love that piece of herself. And I feel like that's something that I'm constantly challenged by. Like, so yeah, I don't know. This is a powerful game and it fucked me up. But kind of like one of the things that I was left thinking about after beating this a week ago is, like, that cozy bit. Like, why is it cozy? Like, why is it comforting to wrap ourselves in this kind of sadness, to watch this kind of stuff play out, like, to feel close to that, to see that darker stuff reflected. And I was thinking on near the very end of the game, you start to realize that Stella is going to have to move on as well. That she's working towards her own ascension into the next plane. And there's these scenes that happen throughout the game where you're visited by this giant white owl who is, you realize, is, like, symbolic of death. like as an entity. And one of the last times that he comes to you, to Stella, he's asking her why she chose this life, like why she has chosen to be a Spiritfarer and why she's doing this for the spirits. And he says, was your vocation an affectionate duty born of compassion, or a display of selfishness, of everlasting uncertainty? Did you do it for them or for yourself? To know me and grow accustomed to my presence, to conquer me? Am I less daunting to you now? Or am I still a ghastly shadow, a deafening absence? And I've been thinking about that a lot because I feel like that's Death talking to Stella, but it also feels like the game talking to us, the players. Like, why are we drawn to stories about sadness and death and darkness like this? And I feel like part of what makes it comforting is that in putting ourselves in proximity to these kind of almost untouchable, unknowable things, we can pretend like we have some level of familiarity with it to try to make it less scary. Like if we can find the beauty in transience, it can feel less horrifying. So that's kind of the thing that I've been sitting with, because it is sad to know that everything passes. And I think, even if you haven't experienced a lot of death in your life, there's a lot about Spiritfarer that just speaks to the way people move in and out of each other's lives, how we'll be a part of each other's lives and we'll do things for each other and we'll impact each other in ways we understand and ways we don't. And then we'll move out and you might never see that person again. But like knowing that it's all temporary, knowing that you can and will lose someone, I think that's part of like that reminder to invest deeper, that reminder to put down the mundane shit and try to connect with people.
Yeah. Yeah, because people make life worth living. And when I am in like a really dark place and feeling weak and feeling like I might be consumed, it's people that make me come back to myself. Like, it's not like, oh, I have to stay alive for my apartment and job. It's, I have to stay alive because of Jamie so that she can be at my wedding, for my cat so that someone will feed her, for my partner because we have this whole life together. And, it's like, those are the connections that give life meaning. So yeah, I love that what you just said about it encouraging you to just dig deeper because it is all temporary.
Yeah. So on that super peppy note,
damn.
Thanks for hanging with us for that heavy conversation. I promise this interview we're about to go into is not quite as heavy.
Sorry, Mars.
Spencer and I got to chat with the wonderful Mars Dixon, who is a streamer, game streamer. We Gay is the name of their channel, WII Gay. And we had an awesome conversation with Mars. Mars really is, there's a lot of synergy between why Mars got into streaming and why we got into podcasting, and this idea that we just want to broaden the idea of what a gamer is and invite more people into that space. And so we had a really awesome conversation with him.
Yeah, and Mars uses they, he, and she pronouns. They are an awesome Black queer streamer, gamer, musician. They are in the band I Nicole. They are also Filipinx, which is an awesome way we also connected. They're just really cool. Highly recommend that you check out their channels, and that's at WII_gay, GAY. We get into just awesome discussions about identity, why we game, as well as talking about The Sims, which has a surprisingly interesting gay queer history that we're just really, really excited to dive into. We loved hanging out with Mars. We hope to have them to connect with them or collab with them in some other way in the future. So yeah, we can't wait to share this convo with you. Hello, Mars. Thank you you so much for joining us in the Pixel Therapy Studio. We're so
Of
happy to have
course.
you.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. For those who don't know you, do you maybe want to start by telling us what you were up to before quarantine hit?
Oh, okay.
And then what you're up to now.
Okay. So my name is Mars. Usually I'm playing music, but I started a gaming channel on YouTube and Twitch, but more active on YouTube. Almost 2 years ago now, actually. I haven't been playing music so much since quarantine. I haven't been working, so I've been recording a lot for my channel. And I also started doing adult rated video games for I have like a PornHub channel where I'm not naked, but I'm like playing like adult games.
Cool. Yeah. with friends?
With myself.
Yeah.
Like it's just like an extension of my YouTube channel, but just like games that YouTube will definitely not allow me to post.
And have you always identified as a gamer?
I have. I've been playing video games since maybe like I was 5 or something. And yeah, I just like fell in love with them like very early on. When I was younger, I had older brothers who were in high school and like stoners and like into 80s metal and stuff like that, and like they definitely loved video games. And when they weren't playing, I was playing their video games, like when they left the house.
Yeah. And what's kind of significance do games have to you now as an adult?
I guess when I first started playing games, it was kind of more just like escapism, but now it's kind of like, I don't know, like, I mean, it's like a way to like connect with other people, and video games has kind of helped me rekindle my relationship with my little brother. We've been playing video games a lot, like online, because we don't live in the same place.
Yeah.
But it's really like kind of like glued together our relationship, playing video games together.
Yeah.
And we talk to each other almost every single day now. But like after I moved away from home, we just, I don't know, we like kind of stopped talking to each other as much.
Yeah. That resonates. Like my whole family I'm from Delaware, and my whole family pretty much lives in the kind of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware area. And there was definitely like, I have 8, 9 cousins, and that's just the ones and like my first cousins. And growing up, like you said, like I have so many memories of like everything from like Dr. Mario to like Super Smash Brothers. And I've certainly, especially, I mean, the quarantine has brought this into even sharper focus, but I just feel the distance. Like I really feel like, wow, like my cousins are getting older. I think too, like I never really explained, not that I should have had to, but I never really explained to my cousins like, hey, I'm trans, I'm non-binary, I'm on testosterone, I look really different, I sound different, but we haven't been around each other enough for it to be like a casual thing I can bring up, especially when I'm home. And I feel like we're at the point now where I guess what resonated was just that lately we've revived this like cousin group chat, and the thing that has not changed between us is that we can instantly talk about Naruto, or we can talk about games, or like if anything else, like even if I haven't talked to some of them in literal years, like we can still just connect over that, and it's just really cool.
Yeah.
So tell us about your channel.
My channel. Okay.
We Gay.
Yeah, my channel's called We Gay, WII, and hopefully Nintendo won't get me for that. But it's like it's a pretty small channel. But yeah, I started it. Well, I actually tried to start a channel like years and years before, but I just didn't really, I guess I didn't have the patience to figure out how to record everything and put it together. But then around the time my band broke up, because I was like all about like music, like I even stopped playing video games for a while to focus on music.
Yeah.
But then my band broke up and I was like, well, this is something I've always wanted to do. So now I have time to do it because I'm not playing music. And so I just like got just like cheap versions of things to like help me record.
Yeah.
And yeah, I started it because I just like didn't see people who looked like me or like had politics like I do. Like, and also I just love video games and the way I play video games. Well, I say to myself, any game I play instantly becomes a gay video game just because of the way I play it or like the way I interact with the game. Like,
hell yeah,
I make it gay.
Right, because you're an integral part of the game. Doesn't exist without you putting yourself into it. So
exactly.
Oh, something I love about your channel too is your channel description, which says a gaming channel for LGBTQ people who aren't yet gamers. And that really, I love that because something that we talked about in like our very first episode of this podcast was like, Spencer, don't necessarily feel comfortable identifying as a gamer because I think it carries a lot of connotation, and it also just is a community that's it's a lot sometimes. Yeah. And so I'm just curious to know like what your intent was when you were writing that, and kind of like what kind of space you're trying to create with the channel.
Yeah. So I don't have a whole lot of gamer friends, but I feel like a lot of my friends who think of video games, they think of like stereotypical, like slacker or like gross, like white men or teenage boys, like sitting in their mom's basement or, you know, think of like Call of Duty or like other like violent shooting games or whatever. And I just wanted to show like there's different kinds of video games out there. I don't know. I just kind of think that anyone could be a gamer. When I've talked to some of my friends who've been interested in video games, they were like, yeah, like I didn't feel like there was space for me. So I never played video games growing up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just want to make the space more welcoming. And I just like tell people like, you don't have to be into video games or know anything about video games to like watch my channel. And also a lot of the guests I purposely invite are people who don't identify as gamers. Cause I just want to like open it up. And and also I just kind of hate gamer culture. Like it just like really bothers me. And so I want to help change it.
I love that. Like we should get you, we need you on the show. Cause like,
yeah, a lot of similarities in terms of why we started this podcast too.
Yeah.
For sure.
Tell me about like when you say you hate gamer culture, like can you say more about like what's up there?
There's just so much garbage. There's so much garbage in gamer culture, and it's just like so male dominated and just like feels so like icky and like racist and like women hating, and it's just like, I don't know. I'm just like, I guess I used to think like, oh, like video games are for like the outcast, like the weirdos, the nerds. But I'm just like, you're just like the jocks or whatever. Like,
wow, like, yeah.
You're no different. Like, you're not unique. You don't think differently. Like, you're not an outsider.
Yeah, there's like a culture of people who have latched so hard onto that nerd identity that the idea of anyone else that's not like them coming in and trying to lay claim to it too and saying like, oh, we're on the same page, we're nerds too, that they just immediately feel like they have to put up a wall because they feel like they've claimed this space as theirs and now they need to defend it instead of just opening it up to more people. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Okay, it's so funny that we're talking about this because so the game that you wanted to talk to us about, Mars, was The Sims 1.
Yeah.
And are y'all familiar with the fraught gay history drama that surrounded The Sims and its inception? Because I was reading about it, and okay, I'm gonna take the silence as a no, and I just
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm curious to hear what you're gonna say.
Okay, so Maxis, right, was the original developer. They made SimCity, which was like a very high level. I mean, it's not that high level, but in terms you're not right there in the moment with folks. You're hovering above, and you're managing your bustling metropolis. And so this was like 1999, and EA had just purchased Maxis, and Will Wright, the creator of The Sims, had been working on what at that time was his concept for The Sims. And because he wanted The Sims to be something different from SimCity, he wanted it to encapsulate as much as it could of the human experience in a natural way. It included the ability to make a trans character, to make a gay character. And Maxis, like at that time, they were uh, Will was like, this game is gonna be great. It's gonna attract female gamers, because today, like 60% of gamers identify as women, and or along the spectrum of womanhood. And Maxis was like, no, like women don't play games. Like that's ridiculous. We can't have this gay shit in here. Like take that stuff out. And so the game was planning to go to production with the ability, like all the code for being able to be gay, like taken out. And shortly before that happened, they hired a developer named Patrick J. Barrett III, who happened to be gay. And shortly after he came on board, he was given this old design document to work on implementing social interactions for The Sims. And the document was old, so it still included the code for making them gay. And he didn't know, like, he was like, oh, well, this seems like it should be in the game. And so he put it in. And it wasn't until a demo of the game was unveiled at E3 in 1999. And in the background of the video, there were two women Sims kissing. And so at that point, it was basically too late. And they're like, oh, fuck, there's gay shit in the game. And it became I think for you, and which I would love to hear you talk about, but for me and a bunch of other people as well, like it was the place where we learned that we were queer, or was the only safe space in our rural or super suburban homes, super Roman Catholic or whatever surrounded you. Like it was the place to like figure some shit out. And so I just think the fact that not only was the game almost killed multiple times, not only was Maxis a company that had a history of like another person in 1996, a gay programmer was fired when he just implied like two men were like too close to each other in a sim copter game, and he was fired. This was a company that was intent on not having any homosexual content in these games. Yeah. But then when this game came out, it was the very first game that facilitated same-sex relationships, and it defined an entire generation of games after that. So like, it's just like queer people rock. But I'd love to hear, I feel like everyone remembers where they were the first time they played The Sims. Like, how did The Sims come into your life? Tell us about that.
That's really funny. I actually do kind of remember that story now from listening, because I'm also a podcast nerd. And I think I heard about that story on a podcast that was specifically about The Sims.
Awesome.
And how they were like going to take it offline, and how people were like getting so sad. But anyways, I got into The Sims. I was at a barbecue. I was visiting my sister in Kentucky. Me and my little brother, we always so I'm from Arkansas, but in the summer, we would go visit my sister in Kentucky. And we went to one of our friends' house, and they had two sons. And they were having a barbecue. And most of the time, or like when we got there, we were just kind of like outside on their like dock. And then I go inside and one of the kids was like, "Hey, you want to see this game?" And I was like, I love video games. Like, of course I want to see it. And it was The Sims. And yeah, he just like boots up the computer and like shows me his world. And I was like, what? Because it's funny because like I'd always imagined this game, like as a young gamer, like I was like, I wish there was a game where you could like go to the bathroom because like you never get to see that kind of stuff. And like, I like, this was like the game I'd been dreaming of since I was a little kid. And I think, at this time I was maybe like 13, 14 or something around there. And I didn't have a computer at the time at my own house. And so I was like, I have to get a computer. I have to get this game. And so, yeah, he was like showing me the game. And then I was immediately like so addicted and like everyone left the room and like they were like went down to like eat because like we're at a barbecue and I was like, I don't need to eat ever again. I have The Sims now.
I can cook my own food in The Sims.
And so, I played for hours and everyone else was like already like, they were like outside and I was like, nope. I'm playing. And I eventually did have to leave. They had to like pry the mouse out of my hand to get me to like leave their house. And I just couldn't stop thinking about The Sims. And I was like begging my sister. I was like, I will do extra yard work if I can like, you will pay me so I can like save up for a computer. I need to get a computer. I need to get The Sims. And I remember later that year seeing The Sims it was like in Best Buy or something. They were like doing like, it was like a Black Friday deal. And I was like, I will wake up early, go and wait in line with you. Cause my sister also really loved to like take us to these like Black Friday deals and like, wake up at like 4 a.m. or whatever and like stand in line. And that's how I got The Sims, was at a Black Friday deal at Best Buy. But then I didn't have a computer yet. But I could like play on my sister's computer. But then when I went back to Arkansas, I had the game, but I didn't have a computer. But
were you just carrying it around to people's houses?
Eventually my sister like gave me her old computer and I could not stop playing. And like, I remember there was a website called 7 Deadly Sims and you could like get different like skins and stuff. And there was like, they had like Britney Spears, and I was really into that pop group Dream. If you remember, they had a song called He Loves You Not. I was going to sing it, but I'm too embarrassed. But it was just like, it was like P. Diddy or Puff Daddy, whatever he's going by now, his like project, like girl, like 4 like teenage pop group, girl group. But anyways, there was a skin for them. And so I had like Dream in my game, like in my house.
It's like Second Life.
Be either, so I could like be their like girlfriend because I identified as a girl at the time. But like so many lesbian households, like I was, I was taken away.
The way that they built that system too is really cool. Like, and just in reading about the game, like it feels so, even though it was like 20 plus years ago, like it feels progressive, especially now. Like there was this quote in this article in the New Yorker that I was reading, and Barrett, the engineer who had managed to get the gay code back into the game, said EA was more worried that The Sims would flop and hurt the SimCity franchise. It was a different time. People weren't so violently for or against same-sex relationships. They didn't go out of the way to find it and react to it. The right-wing press didn't have the platform they have today to scream. There was no Twitter, no Facebook, no blogs. I kind of hoped that people would come at night with pitchforks and torches, but it never happened. And I just think it's like today, I feel like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that like The Sims was the first game where I like was able to actualize the like twinky gay boy that I saw myself as in my head, but that no one in real life saw me as or would validate.
Yes.
And like when I constructed that character in the game, it was like alchemy was happening in my bedroom, and my parents, no one was there to stop me, and it's like there is something so radically queer about just being able to jump in bed with other Sims and like they're like, hey parents, you're worried that I'm watching like movies and shit. Like this game is like teaching me more about what's possible than any film. And
yes,
the way that they built the algorithm for sim sexuality was interesting because like typically, I mean, most games are fundamentally just like if there was going to be attraction, it would be heterosexual. And so initially they set it up so that like whoever the sim was in proximity to, they would eventually fall in love with. But what they quickly found was that like every character was then gay if they were living in a same-sex household. And so, or every character was straight in a opposite sex or cisgender, other mixed gender household. And so what they ended up doing was changing it to be something more natural and organic. And it had more to do with like you had to actually build relationships and get to certain conversation decision options that would become available only after you reach a certain level with certain Sims. Yeah. And so really every person was bisexual, pansexual, like the capacity to be anything was within everyone. And I'm just like, everyone in this game is like non-binary and sexually fluid, and like, this is great. So something else that really stood out to me in the reviews for the original Sims is that the sound design. Like I kind of just wanted to nerd out about the sound design of the Sims for a sec. The reviews like really played up that part of what was so immersive about it was everything from like car sounds going by the house to chopping vegetables was like lovingly, obsessively rendered, and stuff like the music from just building your house and shopping for furniture is so iconic that it's still, I mean, it plays in my mind for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like as someone who loves music, like I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on that, or if there's any anything about the Sims sound design that stands out in your mind.
Well, I have not, for the past like month, I haven't been able to stop doing the Postal Girls whistle. Like I'm just like doing it when I'm like, I don't know, like walking around my house. I'll try to do it. It's like, like that. Do you remember that whistle?
Oh my God.
I can't stop doing it. Like it's just stuck in my head. But yeah, I love the sounds in that game, and like just like just like when like something's on fire, or I don't know, when someone's like excited, it's just like so funny. It's just like, I feel like I laughed a lot just hearing them like talk.
Yeah, it's like gibberish, but you know exactly like what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And even like when you like turn on the TV, just like the horror channel or like the romance channel, like it's like so interesting. Oh, I just remembered as I was saying that I also learned how to put my own music into the game. So like I could like turn on
the radio on.
I could turn the radio on and like play like whatever music I remember I figured out how to like put my own pictures into the game so I can like put up posters of whatever I wanted. Like I figured out how to like customize and like build my own skins and stuff. I never really learned how to build the skins properly, but I had the program to do it.
You touched earlier on, I wanted to bring it back to like, you mentioned, you know, how initially it enchanted you and you got obsessed with it and you had to play it and you got your own copy. I'd love to hear more about like why The Sims is special to you even now as an adult. Like what about the game was meaningful to you? How did it influence you?
Yeah, I think just the having the outlet to, okay, so I knew I was gay, like that's like one of my earliest memories. Like I knew I was gay, I knew I was trans, even though I didn't have the language for it. I just like already knew those things, but I didn't really have an outlet to like express that sexuality. And I feel like The Sims really helped me like kind of like see what it could look like to like be in a relationship and to like have a home that's like mine and it's queer and I can like, yeah, just like build. I like had a not so great childhood. So like it really helped to have like, yeah, just like envision what my life could be like once I escape this hell. And yeah, I think I could just like make my house look the way I want it and have like my girlfriend or girlfriends or whatever live with me and like, yeah, like I would have like friends. I can like, you can like, cause you can like call friends over and like have like a pizza party or whatever. Like,
yeah, I was like, damn, being an adult rocks. You can just invite all your friends over and have a pizza party whenever you want.
Exactly. And yeah, I think just being able to like, yeah, visualize what I want my future to look like. I feel like I could, The Sims really helped me.
That's beautiful. I really, when I think about my childhood, I find that I describe it as tunnel vision. Like I wasn't thinking about anything other than the future because I had to. And things like The Sims were portals to like tell it, like helping myself believe that something like that I could get there. Just what you said about it being a tool to help, visualize a different future for yourself. Like, yeah, like this is a queer ass game. Something that I think it's so beautifully cyclical too. There's one more quote from that developer, Mr. Barrett, that I wanted to share with y'all. And in this a New Yorker article from 2014, he was reflecting on the whole experience, and he said, at the time, it wasn't considered normal to be gay or lesbian. Some people even saw it as dangerous. This is late 90s, early 2000s. But in The Sims, it was normal and safe to be a gay person. It was the first time we could play a game and be free to see ourselves represented within. It was a magical moment when my first same-sex Sims couple kissed. I still sometimes wonder how in the world I got away with it.
I was getting goosebumps a little bit there.
I mean, that could be you today. Like that's all of us. Like I just think that that's so beautiful. Like, and I did not know this about The Sims, and it's like I just think it reminds me that queer and trans people, we've always been here. We've always been part of society. We've always been making society. We've always been making culture and contributing to culture. It's not new. This isn't like a fad. It's just a new way of scapegoating and persecuting people for being different. But we will persevere.
Yes.
We've been talking about very wholesome ways that we create communities online, but I'd love to hear more about how you're using PornHub as another gaming outlet.
I guess, yeah. So there was this indie game called Yearning, and I found it on itch.io, and it's like gay coming of age visual novel kind of thing. And there were some like sort of explicit moments in that game. And then I was like, wait, if there's this, there's gotta be, and I kind of already knew there were like more like, I guess like when you're on like Pirate Bay, like there'll be like games advertised on the side, like I'm not even going to say like the things I've seen them say, but yeah, just like
boys,
anime girls or whatever.
Yeah. Big titty goth GF.
Yeah, like stuff like that. And I knew about those games, but I wanted to see if there were like games that had more like story or something that aren't just about like the sex part. I mean, like I love the sex part too, but like, and yeah, so this game Yearning, I was like, oh, okay, like this is cool. I definitely had to like censor some of it because of they were just like full on showing like penises and stuff.
Yeah.
But I was like, I want to play games that are like this, but not censor them. And so I was like, I went to PornHub to see if anyone was really doing that, and I saw like a few people doing that, but they weren't doing face cams, and they weren't even like doing voice. So I was like, I'm gonna do it then. I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
Like I want, like why this? Yeah, this should just be like an extension, the dirty extension of We Gay. It's a different
We Gay After Dark.
Yeah, that's what I should have called it. Maybe I can still change it, but it's called Gay Arch Enemy.
Nice.
With underscores. I don't post there as often, but I might start posting there more often because I also started doing another kind of like adult rated thing where I do commentary on porn, like gay porn. Because someone who I kind of became friends with now, this gay porn actor named Joel Someone, and he saw my videos on Instagram and he was like, you're fucking funny.
Yeah.
And like asked me to do commentary on his porn. And I was like, that's weird. And yes, I love that idea.
That's awesome.
And so I've done 2 so far. I've done one for his and then he posted it on Twitter and like this other person was like, will you do one of mine? And like gave me like a 7-day trial of his OnlyFans. And like, I did like a few videos.
You have a voice for porn.
And so I want to, I like, if anyone listening, like you do porn, like I will do commentary, face cam, and like you get to see my genuine reaction to your work. Yeah. So that's like another little branch of like my We Gay channel.
I mean, I kind of love that. Honestly, like one of the things that has sort of, I mean, I've definitely been taking a break from being a gay slut just because of like trauma and wanting to like work through some shit after a particularly painful breakup and a lot of other things. So I haven't really been engaging. I wasn't engaging that much before quarantine hit, but I mean, just the concept of going to a play party, of sharing space in terms of like like a BDSM scene or even just like dancing in the club with other queers and just like having that feels years away from us at this point, at least right now. And so again, I just love the ingenuity of tech savvy gays to be like, let's fucking make a stream where, because that, like, I don't know, it feels like when I watch streamers and stuff, it's like community. Like I feel like I'm just like chilling with someone on their couch and just having a convo, and like it's silly, but and it's not always in a healthy way that sex is that it can be super commonplace and prevalent in the queer community in ways that like I'm not saying that to be in queer community we have to be like talking about or engaging with sex, but I think having ways to like I think when we see each other and when we are around each other and engaging with each other around sex, it can be really like joyful and validating and fun and sexy and a distraction and all of that. But I just love that. Have you like, I'm just curious to know if you have any, like, has there been any kind of feedback or what kind of reactions have you gotten from folks? Like, what's the engagement been like with that kind of stuff?
It's for the most part has been pretty positive. Um, there was one time I posted. Okay, so one of my favorite things to do with video games, which is also part of the reason why I love The Sims, is customization. I love to create a character. That's like one of my favorite fucking things. Wait, can I cuss?
Yeah.
Okay.
We just talked about PornHub for like 10 minutes, okay, so yeah.
Yeah. So I play like the wrestling games, like WWE, 2K, whatever. I don't like to wrestle. I love wrestling. I grew up on wrestling. I'm from Arkansas. Like that's like wrestling video games. Like that was growing up in Arkansas. But I don't really enjoy, at least in these newer games, I don't really enjoy playing the wrestling part. I just love to create a really, really gay character and like create like the entrance. And so I do that often, and I can like spend hours. But I posted a video on Instagram, and someone posted or commented. Oh God, I can't even remember. But it was something. It was just like too gay for them. It was too gay for them.
Yeah.
Like something like we don't need gays in wrestling or something like that. I don't really remember.
Wrestling is so gay. Come on.
Have they watched wrestling?
They're like naked. They're like basically naked, rubbing up on each other, all oiled up. Just like they're like touching each other's butts and like it's super
groaning.
Gay. It's like come on
now.
But yeah, I just like immediately blocked. But yeah, I haven't really seen too much of that. I and that's one thing I kind of fear as my channel like grows, like having trolls. But I haven't luckily had too much of a problem with that. Like people have been pretty positive about the stuff I'm doing.
That's good.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I'll like it. It's scary because it's clear how quickly and vindictively and overwhelmingly the community can come down on folks that they identify as not being acceptable. So I think it's really awesome what you're doing. And yeah, I'm glad that you haven't experienced that. Just one last question for you. Just as someone who has been a lifelong gamer and someone who's engaged in creating content that, like it's not like gamers like us have never been around. It's just that like I feel like finally we're starting to, like 2020, we have games where we have playable trans characters and narratives that center POC and actually honor the cultural identities of POC as well as skin color. Like I'm actually really excited for the new Miles Morales Spider-Man game because they're like including his like Afro-Latino identity. Like he's not just like a body that we're applying a skin onto. He's a fully realized person and he deserves that. So like I guess I'm just curious to know like how you feel, like what are you excited, like what would you love to see change in the gaming community, or what are you excited about when you look to the future and as someone who's helping kind of create content in that future? No pressure.
Wow. Yeah, I guess I just want to see more people who look like us playing video games and like making video games and streaming and, creating content around video games and doing reviews and stuff. And yeah, I just like really want to help change the face of like, what a gamer looks like. Yeah. And yeah. Oh, tomorrow I'm actually going to the Game Devs of Color conference that's happening. It's happening online, but I went last year I think it was in Harlem. And yeah, like, it's just like, I feel like that's like another thing that it's just kind of like bringing us together, like all the like people who are kind of like the outsiders of the outsiders in like, just like black and brown, like nerds creating games, playing video games and like connecting with each other. And yeah, I just want to like be a part of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mars, it's been so lovely having this time with you, and thank you for your patience through our technical difficulties.
Oh yeah, of course.
Before we let you go, where can folks find you online? And is there anything you're up to these days that you want folks to know about?
You can find me on, well, my YouTube channel is just called We Gay, WII Gay. Same thing on Twitch. And I'm on Instagram a lot, and I don't use my gamer name. I use a name that my older sister came up with, which is MM Dizzy, like MMD. Those used to be my initials back in the AOL days. So MM Dizzy, MMDIZZIE, on Instagram. I think We Gay. I think I also use WeGay on Twitter. I'm not on there as much, but those are my social media things.
And Patreon. Support Mars on Patreon.
Yes, I have a Patreon. Also WeGay, and I guess there's nothing big that I'm really working on just yet that I'm telling people about. So yeah, come find me on the social media.
Yeah, get it on the ground level before they blow up, people.
Yeah.
Mars, thank you.
Of course. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Time is up for today's session of Pixel Therapy. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope that listening to our thoughts and feelings gave you some thoughts and feelings of your own. If you enjoyed this episode, we would very much appreciate it if you could rate us and review us on your podcast application of choice, because it does make a big difference for an up-and-coming podcast like ourselves. If you want to reach out to us, you can get us by email at pixeltherapypod@gmail.com, and you can stay up to date on all things Pixel Therapy by following us on social media at pixeltherapypod, or by visiting our website at pixeltherapypod.com. We're especially a lot of fun on Instagram, and we are desperately trying to get better at Twitter, so follows and Twitter tips are appreciated.
Finally, since we like to put our money and our energy where our mouth is, we end every episode with a recommended side quest. And these side quests are different mutual aid opportunities, fundraisers, organizations, community groups, just like different ways that you can get involved either in your own community or on a wider scale with issues that are just really important, for lack of a better word. So this week, we wanted to let you know about a really important GoFundMe called the Homeless Black Trans Women Fund. And you can find it by Googling Homeless Black Trans Women Fund GoFundMe. It would be too long for me to read you the whole GoFundMe link. But this is a fund that was started in December 2019 by Jessie Pratt Lopez. Jessie is a trans Latina from Colombia who lives in Atlanta, Georgia. And she uses her experiences as a documentary photographer and grassroots activist to help folks from her community use their voices to resist systems of oppression and step into their own power. You can check out her photography at www.jprattlopez.photos. And the fund was started for a small community of Black trans women living on the streets of Atlanta, Georgia, many of whom are also sex workers. Using this fund, the group has been able to help this community with direct mutual aid, and has also grown into a unique opportunity to alleviate the chronic homelessness that exists among trans people in Atlanta, especially among Black and Brown trans people. So you can donate to this fund. It's directly being used to help the community of Atlanta. And yeah, like support Black trans women, support Black trans sex workers. This is a great opportunity to do that. So again, check out the Homeless Black Trans Women Fund on GoFundMe.com.
Thank you for that important side quest, Spencer. That is our show for today. So go forth, run a story mission, level up some stats, and don't forget to hug an NPC every now and then. We'll be back soon with some more Pixel
Therapy. I just want to say it together.
And we sort of did.